Napoleon was surely right when he claimed that the most difficult thing in war was to guess the enemy's plan. And that was precisely the difficulty that Marshal Blucher and the Duke of Wellington faced. What was the Emperor planning? The first question was whether the Emperor would attack at all, and if the answer was yes, then they needed to know where and when that attack would occur. Yet only 3 days before the storm burst, the Duke of Wellington was persuaded that no onslaught was coming. He planned to give a ball in Brussels on the 21st of June, the anniversary of his great victory at Vittoria, and when the Duchess of Richmond asked whether it would be sensible for her to give a ball on the 15th of June, he reassured her, "You may give your ball with the greatest safety without fear of interruption." On Tuesday the 13th of June, he wrote to a friend in England, "There is nothing new here. We have reports of Bonaparte's joining the army and attacking us, but I have accounts from Paris of the 10th, on which day he was still there, and I judge from his speech to the legislature that his departure was not likely to be imminent. I think we are now too strong for him here." That letter was written on Tuesday, and on the day before, Monday the 12th of June, Napoleon had left Paris to join l'Armée du Nord in Flanders. On the 14th of June, that army closed up to the frontier, and the Allies still suspected nothing. Blucher shared Wellington's opinion. He had written to his wife, "Bonaparte will not attack us," but Bonaparte was poised to do just that. He had closed France's borders. "Not a stage or carriage must pass," he ordered, while north of the frontier, in the province of Belgium, the British and Prussian armies were spread across a swathe of country over 100 miles wide. That dispersal was necessary for 2 reasons. The Allies are in a defensive posture. They will not be ready to attack until they have overwhelming force, when the Austrians and Russians have reached the French frontier, so for the moment Wellington and Blucher are waiting, and of course, they know that the Emperor may attack them before they move against him. Wellington may have thought such an attack unlikely, but he still must guard against the possibility, and that means watching every route that the French might take. With hindsight, it seems obvious that Napoleon would strike at the junction of the Prussian and British armies to separate them, but that was not so obvious to either Blucher or to Wellington. Wellington's fear was that Napoleon would choose a route further west, through Mons, and so on to Brussels, or even towards Ghent, where Louis XVIII had taken refuge. Such an attack would cut Wellington off from the coast, and so sever his supply lines. Whatever happened, Wellington wanted to be certain that his army had a way to retreat to safety if it was outfought, and that safe retreat led west to Ostend, where ships could evacuate the army to Britain. Blucher had the same concern, only his retreat would be eastwards, towards Prussia. So the 2 armies are spread wide because they need to guard against every possible French attack. The most westerly Prussian forces, General von Bülow's corps, are 100 miles to the east of Wellington's western flank. That dispersal was also necessary to feed the armies. The troops depended on buying local supplies, and too many men and too many horses in a single place soon exhausted the available food. So the Allies were spread across 100 miles of country, while Napoleon was concentrating his armies south of the River Sambre on the main road which led through Charleroi to Brussels. So why did the Allies not detect this? In Spain, the Duke of Wellington had a superb intelligence service. Indeed, his problem had been that he received too much intelligence, but in Flanders in 1815 he was virtually blinded. Before the frontier was closed, he had received plenty of reports from travellers coming north out of France, but most of those reports were fanciful and all were contradictory. He was also denied his favourite intelligence instrument, his exploring officers. The exploring officers were reliable men who scouted enemy country and depended on their superb horses to escape French pursuit. They rode in full uniform, so they could not be accused of spying, and they were extremely effective. Chief among them was a Scotsman, Colquhoun Grant, and Wellington demanded Grant's presence in Belgium as the head of his intelligence department. Grant arrived in Brussels on the 12th of May and immediately set about establishing a network of agents on the French frontier, in which activity he was severely disappointed because the local population, all French-speaking, was either sympathetic to Napoleon or sullenly apathetic. Nor could Grant send exploring officers south of the border because, officially, the Allies were not at war with France, only with Bonaparte. But Grant did have superb contacts in Paris. This was by accident, because in 1812 Grant had the misfortune to be captured by the French in Spain. The French, knowing his value to Wellington, refused to exchange or parole him, but sent him to France under close guard, though not close enough, because once over the frontier in Bayonne, the Scotsman escaped and learnt that General Joseph Souham, a French